Hey everybody, welcome back to the podcast. This is your hostess with the mostest, Amanda Moxley, and today we have the one and only Angela Bell. Angela Bell is in the house. She was a mentor of mine. We met by divine assignment, and I worked with her for an entire year. Angela, you helped me integrate the left side of my brain, the right side of my brain. You have a program called Holistically Made Millionaires. And I am so grateful for you and the amazing work that we did together. I had to have you on. Go ahead and introduce yourself and let's get started. Today, we're going to talk about how to break off shame, how to really master your emotions, because let's face it, being an entrepreneur is not for the faint of heart. And so learning the skill set that Angela's going to share with us can really help you master your emotions and master your income and your impact. All right, so go ahead.
It's so fun to hang out with you again. We're both here in
Yes.
Utah, and I remember the first time we met, it was just like back and forth and back and forth. I think we like shut the smoothie shop down that night.
Yeah, we
So
did.
and then after working together, we even have more to talk about. So it's fun to be back and your presence and hanging out in that vibe. And I'm excited to help however we can help today. We
Yes.
tend to work just to give you some scope. We work with business owners who are at some crucial tipping points. One is that their business is completely on fire, like marketing, sales, it's just working and it's working so well that it's about to burn the place down. And so we help them to do a controlled burn and to scale a holistic wealth, a holistically made millionaire instead of I built my company, but now, other things that are very important suck because that's
Yeah.
not true wealth. And then the other tipping point that we work with are the business owners who have some reoccurring problems that they just have not been able to solve. Or they move on to the next problem, but they all kind of start to blur together. And it's like, why do I always have these reoccurring problems? And they're so frustrated that they're about ready to strike a match and burn it down. So those are the two that we work with. Lots of fire going on there. And
Mm-hmm.
we help them.
Reoccurring patterns. Yeah,
Yeah.
so one of the things when I worked with you was how shame is a silent killer. And you have that, and then you have the frame, the enough equation, where you
Mhm.
have power plus worth equals safety. Maybe you can teach us about shame a little bit and then also your enough equation.
Sure. Well, shame certainly doesn't make you feel very, very powerful or worth very much. And that's its purpose. And Brene Brown is actually the one who scientifically researched and concluded that shame is a killer.
Mhm.
They've proven it. They've proven that you're more likely to die of heart attack and cancer if you have a systemic, reoccurring experience with shame. And do you mind if I ask you to kind of insert your experience here?
Sure.
Because right
Yeah.
when we got on, you were talking about how it kind of took you by surprise.
Yes, I had no clue. So I mean, I think the first month of us coaching, you were talking about shame, and I was cloaked in shame. So I went to a very strict private school, and my parents divorced when I was 2, and I was one of the only kids, I think the only kid in the class whose parents were divorced because it was also a religious school, and
Mhm.
I just had behavioral problems for obvious reasons. I was trying to get attention, try to get love. And so I would act out, and then they would put me in a closet. Now I'm out of the closet, clearly. But they would put me in a closet. I mean, there's just shame, the conditioning of programming of shame.
Yeah. And maybe even the shame because your family looked different
Mhm.
and shame because well, we'll go right into worth and power.
Yeah.
So the way shame works and the reason it's so addictive is it's your on the neurological level, and we can talk spiritual too, but on the neurological level, your brain only wants one thing. Your brain wants to feel safe, right?
Hmm.
Your brain, your nervous system. If we don't feel safe, nothing else matters. Absolutely nothing. It is non
Yes.
negotiable. You can't just tell your brain that you don't care about safety. It is non negotiable. You don't get to choose that. Now, you can go out and threaten your safety, but then you just become addicted to something else, right? And then that becomes what your brain thinks safety is. But we're not talking about that kind of addiction or drugs or alcohol to mask that feeling of not feeling safe. We're talking about the core need to feel safe that drives people into those addictions. So your body needs to feel safe. Well, there's only two ways that it can do that. Now, we're not talking physical safety. We're talking emotional safety, right? Like my needs are going to be met. I'm not going to fail. I'm going to be loved. I'm not going to fail permanently, right? I'm not going to become failure. Instead of,
Yeah.
I'm going to learn from my failures. And those are worth and power.
Worth and
So your
power.
sense of self-worth and your sense of being able to make choices and choose, it's also called agency, but it's just easier to call it power. So worth and power. Now, those two things, when did you get them? When did you
Childhood.
get worth and power?
Maybe even in the womb.
Yeah,
Baby
the
times.
moment you existed, right?
Ooh,
Yeah.
that's big.
The moment that you were an individual, so whether you believe that was in the womb or in heaven, the moment you existed, you were given worth and power. So for me, that comes from God.
Me too.
Like the moment that I existed, I had worth,
Yes.
unlimitless worth.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very individual as well, right? I'm not just one of his kids or one of his kingdom, whatever. I am Angela.
Right. He knit you, Psalm 30, I think 91 or Psalm 31, he knit you together in your mother's womb. Yeah.
He knows every in and out. He knows every strength and weakness. I believe he gave them to me. They're crafted to help me know him and fulfill his purposes for me and his other children here on earth.
Mm-hmm.
And to learn joy, right? Christ came that we may have joy and that we may have it more abundantly. And that's a process. That's not something that we just have. So we have that worth as babies.
Yep.
And we feel it as babies. You can see it
Yes.
in their faces, as long as they're in a healthy environment and they're having their needs met, babies know their worth. When
Mm-hmm.
does it change?
Right.
They start to experience their worth differently at some point.
Mm-hmm.
So think about this. If the baby is, learning to walk and every time it falls down, the parent says, how we get so
Yeah.
excited.
Yeah.
And the baby's like, yay. But if every time the baby falls down, we ignore it, or we're frustrated and angry, why can't you do this? But
Mm-hmm.
eventually we know we get those messages as we
Mm-hmm.
start to get out into the world, as our parents start getting into their own issues, trying to teach us. So they have their own worth and power issues and they lay them over on their kids. And that experience of their worth starts to change. So
Mm-hmm.
you know what I'm going to say. Worth
Yep.
is a set point in the universe that was established the moment we existed, and everything else is just an experience. So success, failure, feeling good, feeling bad, money, no money, bad choices, good choices. It's all just an experience. It cannot change your worth. You can't
Right.
control it.
So you are inherently worthy.
Yeah, inherently worthy. And the only thing that we can change, we can't change our worth. We're not in control of that. But the only thing we can change is our experience of our worth.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one of the first things we do. And it's so powerful. One of the reasons that I work with entrepreneurs is because when I used to work with high functional medicine doctors and things like that in some of the wealthier areas in Utah, um, when I would do that and see their patients, people were making way more money. So over the years, I just figured out how that worked. I love entrepreneurs because they have this willingness of heart.
Yes.
Like they are willing, whereas other people, they're kind of willing, but it takes like divorce or marital problems or illness
Yeah.
or death of a loved one sometimes to really get people willing. But entrepreneurs are like, I was born willing.
Yep. Yep.
So I love working with entrepreneurs, but what we found is that the number out of all the strategy, I mean, I have strategy in my company, people who have built billion-dollar companies. Out of all the strategy, out of all the things I've done to build multi-millionaires in this world, and help six-figure people, rise as well. Um, the number one thing that I can ever contribute to anyone that not only changes their life, but makes them the most money is when we deal with these worth issues
Mm-hmm.
every single time.
And I remember you said how you increase, one of the ways you increase your worthiness is through self-care.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And self-care, there's like the diva version of self-care that is kind of a turn off to people, or maybe
Right.
a turn on, and then they go there and they don't find what they were looking for, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then there's the who did God give you to take care of you for your entire existence? There's only one person,
Mm-hmm.
you.
Yourself. Yeah.
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 And here's the model. Being connected to God is most important. Otherwise, we're just kind of lost little sheep, like running
Mm-hmm.
around down here without
Yes.
everything that we need. We have to
Mm-hmm.
have, for me, we have
A
to have a
connection.
savior. It,
Yes.
it
It
it's
makes
just
it easier. You don't,
it's
yeah,
possible without him, actually. If you're
right.
talking full measure, if you're talking just survival, yeah, you can probably survive here without God, but
Yeah.
that's not what I'm here for personally. And then
Yeah.
the next is, oh gosh, back me up. I started thinking about,
Power. Power plus worth equals safety. So safety is where
yes,
God is faith.
yeah, it's
You
trust,
find your
it's love.
safety in God,
Hmm.
love, source. And then
Yes.
power, it's like power. So that is about choice. You can choose.
Yes, power is the other one. It is your choices. We always have choices. Even if
Mhm.
you're in jail because of choices you've made, and so a lot of your choices have been taken away, you still have choices. And
Right.
there's amazing stories about that. In
Mhm.
fact, if I could remember his name, oh, he's amazing. Darn it, I still want to use his story. Okay, apologies to him. Uh, I hope I remember his name.
Okay.
Not because his name isn't important, but just because that part of my brain hasn't recovered from a head injury.
Okay.
He names just haven't come back. I never know when it's going to hit. He was in jail. He was a leader in a gang in a major city, and he was sentenced for, gosh, it was insane, like 50 years or something.
Ooh,
And he went in there and, every day he said people are trying to kill him. So
oof.
he needed to be at the top of the pack and he needed to be on alert. So he wasn't super
Um,
safe, right? His
right, right.
safety had to come from him and the people that he could convince to follow him and watch his back.
Mhm.
And it
Wow.
also meant that sometimes he had to defend himself in a way that wasn't very good, right?
Right.
It was taking out other people basically. So eventually in jail, he hit bottom and he found God. And he
Mhm.
decided that every day he used to wake up and think, how was he going to hurt someone else before he got hurt? And now he was waking up and thinking, how can I help someone?
Wow.
And in 8 years, he learned law and got himself out of prison.
Ooh.
And then he became a real hand of God. Like he he helped negotiate Ferguson and settled that whole dilemma between, I wouldn't say Black Lives Matter, but the community and the
Okay.
police. He
Wow.
became a Harvard fellow, so he has an office at Harvard now,
Oh,
where people can come in and he mediates.
that's
Uh,
amazing. Wow. That's a
yeah,
God right there. That's a
yeah,
miracle.
yeah. He and I had breakfast one morning at a mastermind because I have a son that's been sick for like 8 years, so he hasn't had a
Oh,
normal teenage life. I didn't know how to launch a child that didn't have those experiences or schooling, and I didn't want to launch him into failure. And it was such a tight spot to be in. And I didn't know what my choices were. And we looked at so many choices and they were all failing. And he gave me just some simple ideas. And, it
great.
wasn't right away, but we were able to do those. And now my son is healthy. He goes to college, he has a job, he's doing amazing.
Wow.
So, yeah, power and knowing your choices is really, really important. And yet, so often we hear the word victim thrown around, and
Hmm.
we know that's bad. Um, and so we don't want to take that on. So, I'm just going to use the word we feel powerless. There are
Yes.
moments that all of us feel powerless,
Yeah.
and that's not bad. That's
Right.
just your experience. And
Right.
it's trying to help you learn your choices and maybe get rid of some worse stuff and how to have power in that moment. And more often than not, it's not even going to be your own power. It's going to be God's power mixed with
Mm-hmm.
yours. And yours will
Yeah.
look minuscule, right? So, yeah, it's
So
definitely learning worth and power and learning how to direct that into things like self-care. Oops, back feed, but even more so into your business as well.
mhm. Okay. I love it. So power, just understanding that you have a choice. At any moment, you have a choice. You could choose love, you could choose fear, you could choose beating yourself up, you could choose celebrating yourself, and then self-care. This is a great example. So one time I was doing your equation, power plus worth equals safety. And I was just feeling off. And I thought, okay, I'm going to do some self-care. And I normally do one routine, exercise and all this stuff. And I was like, nah, I feel like I'm going to go to Starbucks and get this favorite coffee and then do some like collage. I'm going to create a collage. I'm going to go do all these fun things. And I ended up just shifting my entire energy. And then by the end of the week, I had a 50K week.
Yeah. Oh,
It
I can't
was,
even tell you how many times I've heard that.
yeah,
Yeah.
just like this is a simple equation. So stop
Yeah.
forcing yourself to do something. You have a choice and then self-care. The
Yeah,
self-care,
it's
taking care
about
of yourself.
connecting to God to hear the messages and then
Mhm.
being connected to yourself and feeling safe with God and safe with yourself. You don't feel very safe with yourself if you're shaming yourself to go to the gym. What do we
Right?
say? I whip my butt in shape. Oh, I really should go to the gym. All of that
Yeah.
thing. Should, whip, like what part of that, you know?
Yeah. Should and whips. No, no whips. Whips and chains. No. But I know that you teach about resistance tapping. So this was you taught us how to do a T chart and how to tap around our ears to help reduce the resistance. Can you talk about that? Because and the T charts, I mean, if anyone ever finds my T chart journals, I'm screwed. So many.
I don't even know if we could cover that in the amount of time that we have.
Yeah,
But I think that's a really good point to bring up because when we're
yeah,
talking about worth and power and shame, is that the resistance that you're feeling in your business, especially or in your life, it's actually trying to give you what you need to have what you divinely desire.
wow.
So think of it this way, when you go to the gym, if there's no resistance, are you ever going to improve your health or your strength? No,
No.
you have to have resistance. And that's so resistance is a signal. It's nothing to fight with, it's something to surrender with. And
Mm,
surrender can look different. Like when I'm lifting, like say I'm doing an curl, my body is trained that when I start to feel it, that's when I get excited and I really switch
yes.
off and lean in and make sure my form is good, my elbows back. And I love the burn, until
Yeah.
I can't quite lift it. And then I know I'm done.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I remember just an example. So I worked with you like right after COVID. So like 2020, 21.
Yeah.
And I remember I was avoiding. So resistance is avoiding resistance. Let's just talk about the many faces of resistance.
Yeah, there's a lot.
There's a lot of faces. And so resistance. So for example, one of your coaches I was working with, I was really very passionate about organizing my house, painting, cleaning, putting things away. And she said, "You are in resistance."
Getting ready to get ready to get ready to get ready. Procrastination's another way to say it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Where I thought,
procrastination is normal with trauma. And it's a normal
mhm,
response when you have all these worth and power things telling you, I can't do that.
mhm.
Right. It's a
Yeah, so
signal.
it's a signal. Okay, so lean into your resistance. And when you feel resistance, lean into it. And you also talk about how, I mean, resistance, I think you say even resistance kills all your plan. It's kind of like shame, isn't it?
No, resistance, shame is an indicator of a worth and power issue, more on
Okay.
the worth side. And so we want to alchemize or transform that into something beneficial. It's
Okay.
beneficial in that it's a signal, but if you let it linger, it will take you out. Resistance, if you're only experiencing resistance, you never get to the other side. So yes,
Right.
it will stop things in its track if it's not dealt with. And everyone's like, oh, I'll willpower through that. So yes, we do teach lean in, but really it's the same as emotions. You know, you can't just ignore or therapy or pray away your emotions. They're built into you for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
We don't want to become them. We
Right.
don't want to think that they all are telling true stories, but they're
Right.
signals that are coming up for us to use the spirit and to use wisdom and learn what to do with that, because it's trying
Mhm.
to gift us something. And it's the same thing with resistance. It's an indicator light. And we say lean in because most of the time when people feel resistance, they go,
Yeah.
right? So we
Stop.
train ourselves to lean in, just like I trained myself to lean in with my bicep, right? I don't drop
Mhm.
the weight the minute I start to feel it in my muscle. I get excited. It's finally working, right? So you saw people in the program and in the mastermind get excited because they're like, okay, this sucks, but I'm also excited because I know I'm almost there. Because resistance is the most strong, closest to the finish line. And to be
Yes.
honest, as I work with entrepreneurs, from, you know, lower six figures all the way up to 50 million. It just depends on what program or if it's private.
Mhm.
And it really doesn't matter what level you're at. The resistance actually, as the levels get bigger, the resistance gets bigger.
Right.
But your ability to see it for what it is and deal with
Yes.
it are massively bigger.
Right. It's shortened. That's so good. So resistance is like getting sick. I remember I posted on Facebook and you chimed in. I I think I missed a flight. Someone got sick, and then my lash lady poured hot wax on my lashes.
I remember.
And you chimed in and you said resistance. And I think that was like right before that 50K week. I mean, it was like, so you were so close.
Yeah.
It's like that 2 feet from goal. Just keep going.
Yep.
Yeah.
It is. It is. And yes, we do have techniques to show you how to work with that and how to get the lesson faster and how to stay in the observer place where you're good and you can handle the frustration and also the excitement that you're almost there. Like you can handle those
Yes.
without losing focus and without losing your power and make or your worth. Because all often when we start to make headway and then all of a sudden, you know, there's this wall of resistance, we'll be like, see, I knew it. I'm worthless. I just can't do anything
Mhm.
right. It's just like when, you know, yeah, that's what the brain does.
Right. So this signals, so we're all getting signals. What's
Mhm.
the best way for for them to identify, okay, is it your power, is it your worth, or is it your safety?
Well, they
That's
all work together.
okay.
The best thing that they can do is get some diagnostics to learn what those indicators are,
Mhm.
um, and to learn what to do. Like you said, a really great place to start is self-care because self-care increases worth, but it also increases power and safety because a lot of busy entrepreneurs, business owners, parents, they're like, oh, I just don't have time for that.
Right.
And so this teaches you that you can put the most important things first, which is honestly stewardship of yourself.
Right.
I'm
Yep.
not condoning selfishness, but you do have a stewardship for your body and your mind and your soul to even be a vessel that can give to your family and give in your business,
Hmm.
in your community or your church or whatever it is. So, self-care gives you that ability to get inspiration from your body, your God,
Yes.
and to take that step. And I've so many stories on that that we don't have time for, but then it also what you value, you take care of. And so
Yes.
it convinces your subconscious that you are valuable because you're acting like it. So
Yes.
you're rewriting some of those things,
Mhm.
some of those neural pathways in your brain. You're even rewriting your physical chemistry. Um,
Yep.
that's a whole nother day. And so that becomes more automatic. And when you have a base like that in your day, you start to make different decisions throughout the day. You start
Mhm.
to counsel, lead, and treat other people differently. Um, Honestly, a lot of the reason people can't grow I mean, 93% of people do not grow their business to the heights that they want to.
Right. What
And the
percentage
other
of people?
93. Forbes
Wow.
2022, 7% do a million or more. 36% make the same as they use the analogy of a garbage man, take home, not revenue, right?
What's that, like 80K?
No, 50K or less.
Okay.
And then there was another,
Oh,
it
but
was like a
that's
third.
take home.
Take home, not
Oh,
revenue. Take home, what they actually have in their bank account after their account is done with everything. And then there was another third-ish that was over 50K to 100K. And then there was another smaller chunk, 100K to 200K. And then after that is 7%ers.
7% do a million a year take home.
A million a year. Now I can't remember. Look it up. Forbes 2022. Because there's two numbers. There's a numbers of revenue and then there's a numbers of take home. And now I
Right.
just got them confused. But only 7% of small businesses, and small business go up to 40 million, do a million or more. But take
Wow.
home, it was some pretty sad numbers.
So this spring, like those of us listening here, how could we become part of that top 7%?
Well, what we do, and I'm doing this for free now.
Okay.
I don't know how long we're doing it for free, but we're doing it for free in order to perfect the assessment even more and to perfect our panel of experts that do the answers. These are not automated answers. These are a panel of experts who have built billion-dollar companies, who've built multiple 8-figure companies. Like, these are the best of the best, and myself, who are giving these responses. But the assessment will assess all these areas of your life and business that you didn't even know were applicable.
Okay.
It'll allow you to start hiring the right people. It'll allow you to hire them into the right roles and develop roles that work, instead of saying, well, why can't they just do it? I hired them.
Right.
Why can't they just wear more hats? Why can't they just figure it out? That is not what a leader does. We'll help you figure out why you can't delegate. That is a worth and power issue. So you
Okay.
can be taught delegation all day long, but if you have a safety program that's a worth and power issue about delegating, you will not be able to delegate. Your code says you have to do something else, period.
Wow.
No one overcomes their own code. You have to change it.
The code, guys, you have a code.
Yeah, you have a code like a
You
computer.
have a code. We need to unlock the 7% code ASAP.
Yes, but the assessment is great. It's free. You just get on my website. It's holisticallymade.com. Holistic
Holistically.
is spelled with a W,
Oh, W. Okay.
to represent
Holistic.
wealth and winning and wholeness.
Holistically, just holistically.com.
Holistically made.
Made.com.
Holisticallymade.com. I'll give you the link. They'll see the assessment button right there.
Yes, do
And
it. Guys, Angela is a secret weapon to many millions of people, well, thousands entrepreneurs. I mean, you have figured out this code of like almost like the DNA or the backbone of entrepreneurs.
oh,
Like
I like that. I want
the
to
DNA,
use that.
the DNA, the backbone, it's kind of like the instruction manual. Like if you're going to be an entrepreneur,
That's cool.
here's the instruction manual, what you need. Because a lot of people, they just repeat the same year over and over. They have all
Yeah.
these goals and dreams, but then it's a repeat.
Yeah.
Very few people actually grow. So go to holisticallymade.com and grab this assessment. So
It's
good.
so fun going over
Yes.
old things, but also going over new things with you.
Code. I mean, it's just crazy. We're all coded from the ages of 0 to 7, right? That's where the
Yeah.
code comes in.
That's the most powerful code. And then 7 to 12 is the next powerful. And then from there, that's pretty much your operating system. And there'll be things that happen, like if you're in an accident or,
Mhm.
severe abuse or something. And those write pretty deep too. But the most
Okay.
significant code is 0 to 12. And we don't think of ourselves as 3-year-olds or 7-year-olds
Right.
anymore. And we don't understand how it applies. So I say, look at it this way. You can't see your own ears if
Right.
you're just, I can on Zoom, but not if I'm
Yeah.
just sitting here. I can't see them, right?
Right.
It's the same thing with these patterns, but we can help you to see them. And
Mhm.
it makes the best leaders in the world. It is a phenomenal basis. That's why I've joined with some of the best scaling, leadership, culture people in the world. It's because we're a natural end connection to what they're doing, because we're the individual, they're the group.
Yes. So good. Okay, Angela, thank you for your time. I know you have a busy schedule. I appreciate you and the work you're doing. You significantly impacted my life. I want to honor you and appreciate you.
I'm
And I
so
just
grateful.
thank God that I found you. Like, I think you were, this is another point that you were a testimonial on someone's page. And then
Oh, that's
I
right.
noticed your accent. I'm like, she's from Utah. And then I tracked you down and then it was just totally God ordained. So thank you very much. And everybody be sure to watch the next video. Go to holisticallymade.com, grab this assessment and work on your code. Be a part of the 7%. If you want to be a part of the 7%, put 7 in the comments. All right.
Ooh, good one.
Put a 7 in the comments.
Bye.
See you in the next video.